So you keep talking about retirees that may not actually be retired. I know we've kind of had conversations about this before, but I'm curious, with the withdrawal strategies that they're trying to figure out. Let's say somebody retires, but they're still obviously an expert in their field. They've been doing this for a long time. They take on maybe some part-time consulting work. How does that kind of factor in how they get their money and they're in retirement, and they're also still obviously getting income from consulting?
What we do is we take a mock tax return, but you really want to look at what your new income is going to be with the consulting work, and then you want to drop into that. Are you going to make withdrawals from an IRA, or do you have a pension, or do you have a spouse that's still working? You want to throw all of those things onto the tax return and determine, what the circumstances look like and what's the most efficient way. And then in the long run view, we want to see, well, if we're taking that money out, what will change over time? So the consulting income is here today, but it might go away in the future. That's when the pension or the Social Security or some other source of income, might come into play. So we're sort of pulling levers, switching levers on or off, or turning income streams on and off. And that's really, I think, what we want to look at is that going to be enough? And I think that's really the key, is that when we look at what a person's withdrawing, we've talked about, taxes and everything else, but really I think from a longevity point of view, we talked a little bit about inflation. If we're taking, say, 4% of an account value out, that generally, if historically, you can kind of just say back of the napkin, that should be sustainable if you're properly invested to kind of keep pace with inflation over time. That's a lot of studies. And I'm sure if I say that, a lot of people might want to comment that that's too little, too much, that's up to debate, but we'll just kind of call it 4 or 5%. So that's sort of a number you want to work with and the earlier you do it, though, the more challenging it is going to be able to sustain that number. So when you talk about someone who's got consulting income or other things, some people might be able to retire at 55, but they need to get some income. So they'll say, I'm going to do consulting. And the next thing you know, it's 3 years. How's that going? I'm doing pretty good on the golf course. I'm doing okay. But remember, that was part of the plan, was to have this other source of income. So all of those things, need to factor in. I think that's the biggest challenge retiring too early, is there are certain things that you are required to do to really make that plan work. And, you can kind of get comfortable the way things are, and you have the assets to make it work for a period of time. And you don't want to learn later on that you did too much too soon. Like I say, it's a balancing act. You don't want to do too much too soon, but you don't want to be, 90 and say, I over-sacrificed to make sure I had enough for this time of my life. So if our conversation today resonates and you have any concerns about life after the paycheck ends, whether it's tomorrow, you've already started, or even 20 years from today, check us out at goodfinancial.com and go to Contact Us. And we're happy to start a conversation to help you with life after the paycheck ends.